Hey, welcome back. Another weekly review. We've been doing the videos a little bit more often. I hope you like those. Let us know if you do. Feel free to email us back and let us know. But Quint, markets rebounded after a really volatile week last week. We've got a lot of economic data. So talk a little bit about what's going on.
Well, I want to back up a little bit. We've kind of probably beaten this dead horse to death, but I think it's important to revisit. We had a pretty significant sell-off last Monday. I found the psychology to be very fascinating. And again, we've already talked about this once, but in communicating with people, it was a pullback. The depths of the pullback occurred prior to the market ever opening on Monday morning, meaning around 7 in the morning, the United States markets were the lowest they were for the entire week. In fact, by the time we opened that morning at 9:30, and then subsequently hours afterwards, all we did was went up. Markets in bull trends like we're in now will often do that.
Yeah.
They will often have these very sharp retracements that shake everybody up and then start to trend higher. And what happens is people don't believe when they start trending higher. It's like, oh, well, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And then we keep going.
Right.
And that seems to be what's happening now. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. But when the psychology shifts from being scared of every drop to wanting to buy the drop, I will become concerned.
Right.
I want to say that again. When the psychology shifts from being scared of every drop to wanting to buy a drop, I will be concerned. Why? Because I remember in 2000, when I was in the business, the very beginning of my career, people were coming to me and going, do you think we should buy some JDS Uniphase? Tongue-in-cheek, I would say to them, because I knew JDS Uniphase was extremely overvalued, and I would say to them, that's interesting. I don't know much about them. This, by the way, was one of the hottest stocks at the time, much like NVIDIA is today. And I'm not equating the two, but I'm just saying. I would say, I don't know much about them. What do they do exactly? And they would say, oh, well, they're in the computer business and like the internet technology kind of thing. They had no idea.
Right.
Yet, they wanted to buy the stock because it was down. So at some point, we are going to get a shift in character to where instead of being scared of a drop in NVIDIA or something along those lines, people go, do you think we should buy some NVIDIA here? I've yet to hear that.
No. Exactly the opposite.
Exactly the opposite. Now, we have to be careful. That doesn't mean we just go all hog wild bullish. I'm just sharing with you the anecdotal, the psychology that we see and hear. So this run up that we've seen, this recovery, is not surprising to me at all because of how negative it became so quickly. I would have become very concerned if I didn't hear from anybody.
Right.
If we didn't get any emails. If people subsequent to that didn't say, hey, how'd you guys handle that crash? And I'm like, crash. So I never make light of declines. It's never fun to lose money. But the psychology still supports a bull market. And it's one reason why, while I'm very thankful that we peeled back some of our exposure several weeks ago, we will look to continue to do that if the market continues to trend higher into this year, into the end of this year and next year as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't go out in the rain and it's storming and then put the umbrella up. You put the umbrella up before you go out in the rain. So we're trying to do that over time before we get to that point where the psychology turns and potentially the market has a topping period.
That's exactly right.
Talk about this week a little bit. What happened this week with some of the economic data that came out? I mean, inflation looks like it's basically done, or at least definitely on the decline.
Yeah, so two big economic, CPI, Consumer Price Index, and Producer Price Index, both further, lower year over year, in line with expectations. No surprises, and that's what we're looking for. We don't want surprises.
Right.
So by all intents and purposes, the inflation data is pointing lower. There has been some concern over the backdrop of the economy. As we know, jobless claims, unemployment numbers are starting to become concerning. But this week, retail sales suggest that even though the consumer might be coming stressed and pressured and we're starting to see job loss, they're still spending money.
There's still a lot of spending.
Now, the interesting thing about that, for those of you that, again, like this psychology talk and kind of understand what we're looking at into the future, on one hand, the market loved that. Oh, people are still out spending the money. Consumers represent 70% of our general economy. So the consumer spending. So that's positive, and stocks appreciated on that. The markets continue to go up this week on that news, in my opinion.
Right.
But they're spending on credit cards with money they don't have.
Yeah, and that's terrifying.
And that's concerning.
Yeah.
So I like the act. I like what's happening. I like the music that's going, et cetera. I've mentioned this many times. We're enjoying the dance floor, et cetera. But we keep moving subtly closer to the exits because I don't like the data that I'm seeing that suggest in the longer term, months to next year, we could be facing some difficulties. So our plan is very simple. We've already taken kind of one tranche. It's a small tranche, but we've taken a tranche out of the market, and we will look to continue to do that, as I've mentioned many times, into the end of this year. We'll probably do one more into the end of this year, and then next year as well, assuming the market continues to do what it's been doing.
Okay, great. I think that's a good summary. We're going to end it there. Make sure you watch the other video that we have below with Vincent. He's been a great addition to our team. We've loved having him. So make sure you watch that. We'll get back with you sometime next week. Have a good one.